It is official. Help a Teacher Facebook Live. And I've been out the last couple of weeks, with Thanksgiving and just being on the road and working with teachers. It has been it's crazy, but we are back in the game. And I got to tell you, man, I miss this. This is this is my just one of my ways now with COVID that I'm able to connect with you guys. So it's been amazing. All right, so let's get this party started tonight. You might notice I'm not in the office. I am outside. I am in Wimberley, Texas, and some great friends of ours. I'm staying with them at their place here. And what I'm really hoping for, I put some feed out. I'm hoping a deer comes by. And I got my camera ready. I'm going to show the deer. So maybe we'll get lucky and have some live deer on the show tonight. And all right, so a while back, I connected with Angie Thomas, and she is a special education behavior consultant. And what I love about her is, you meet those people that it's not that she's in the business of education. It's more like the business of education is in her. Like she's overflowing with passion and excitement and just all about what we always talk about, using the content of the classroom to make a difference in the lives of our kids. And after we chatted on the phone for a while, I knew, man, I got to get her on the show. I want people to know about her. And so I want to bring her to you tonight. So I'm in Wimberley. Angie is I'm going to go with, I believe it's Amarillo. I'm going to let her correct me if I'm wrong on that. So it's kind of a Texas show tonight. So I'm thinking it's all the way from, I don't know if that's Central Texas, Panhandle, but it's somewhere around there. Angie, join us. How are you? Tell us about it. Remind me, where are you broadcasting from right now?
I'm in Abilene, Texas.
Gosh.
Yes, I'm in the heart of Texas.
That is the
heartbeat.
It's the hub.
Yeah.
The hub.
The hub.
All right.
Yeah.
I know it was an A. It was I know it was Amarillo or Abilene. All right, so it's Abilene. And
Abilene.
All right, so real quick before we get into this thing, are you like the whole Texas girl? You're born here, grew up here, the whole thing, Texas through and through?
I got here as fast as I could. I was born in Dodge City, the home of Miss Kitty, and then got here, as fast as I could. When I was 4, we moved back. My dad's actually from Abilene, so I've been here ever since. A little bit of time in college, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what I love. So I saw your family photo.
Yeah.
And this is like real Texas stuff. They got cowboy hats and cowboy shirts. And I'm thinking, man, that's like, I need some man lessons from your husband and your son. That's what I need. Like, I'm thinking those dudes have calluses and they know how to fix things. And I'm thinking like I know how to make a bulletin board.
Maybe they could learn a lesson or two actually, my son knows how to put a bulletin board together. He does a really good job. I taught him well.
Hey, let's talk about your role right now you have going on, because you were in a classroom for years and it was math and English and language arts, and I even saw theater and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think just by looking at that, you were a lot like me. Like I taught a bunch of stuff because it was almost as if the content didn't matter. I just wanted to use that space in that class, in that classroom family, to impact lives. And I have a feeling like that's what it was for you as well.
Oh yeah, totally. And I could see where in each one of those avenues there was a different group of kids that I could impact. And so now a couple of those certifications I have were because I taught in a little bitty one-room schoolhouse. And so, I was the high school English department. I was the journalism department. I was the theater department, cheerleading sponsor, National Honor Society, whatever. They asked, I said yes. Any way to help, like you said, impact kids. Yeah. That's my love.
Here's the thing, I started out teaching those tiny towns too, and I love that so much because the learning curve is so steep. You teach all kinds of stuff. Everything. You might sign up to one thing that ain't all you're teaching. And in addition to that, I don't know if it was your experience, but mine was, the other teachers were so loving and so helpful and so willing to help your class, because that's the way it works there. Like if, especially at the secondary level, if you're going to have a football team, every kid's going to play football. Everybody's in the band, everybody's in ag, everybody's in everything.
You bet.
And teaching works the same way. So so people over. So here's one of my years. I was a band director. I was 7th grade girls B team basketball. I did typing, and I also taught Spanish. And and,
Yep.
by the way, I don't speak Spanish, but they
Uh-oh.
didn't seem to care about that. so
Just
so
try it.
for
You'll like it.
right for your small town experience, you give us kind of a range of some of your duties.
Oh my gosh. Um, I was the coffee maker. I was the copier, make sure I'm first person there, last person out. So I was making sure the copier was stocked full of paper. I was a professional. I think there should be a certification for teachers and unjamming the Xerox machine,
Right.
which now we don't use that as much. But back in the day before computers, we used a lot of copy paper. I was like cheerleading sponsor. I did not ever drive a bus. That was where I drew the line because I knew once I got that certification, that was a
Over.
done deal. Yeah, I was a cafeteria monitor. Now I was a bus monitor, so I did ride a bus and keep all the children safe and keep everybody healthy and get them off at the right house. Math. Uh, oh my gosh, I was the nurse probably 50% of the time, counselor, uh, psychologist, family counselor. Uh, then, of course, English language arts, 9 through 12. I taught AP, I taught special ed, journalism, so a little bit of paper, also uh, yearbook. I was the coordinator for our district, regional, and whatever UIL. So all of that. And, when you're in a K-12 school, that means all of them,
Yep.
not just high school UIL, not just for academics. So yeah, it just whatever they needed me to be, assistant principal.
Yeah.
If I needed to step into that, I've swept floors, I've cleaned toilets, I've whatever you need. I'm here.
Yeah.
As long as it helps kids be successful, then that's where I'm at. So.
That's what I loved about the small town compared. I've also taught in those big suburban districts where they have 75 elementary schools and
Yeah.
50 junior highs and all that. But what I loved about it is after the game, every teacher that was at the game, they helped clean the stands and they helped clean the stadium and they emptied the trash cans and
you bet.
And like you, the one thing I was proud of myself, I didn't have a strategy for not driving the bus. The strategy was built in because the district only had 3 buses and the seats were welded down. And I'm 5'3", man. I can't reach the pedal, right?
That was perfect.
Yeah, and I said, sorry. What are you gonna
That's
do?
funny.
You don't have enough phone books for me to reach the pedals, man.
Sorry, no can do.
And so now in your current role as special education behavioral consultant, tell me about that.
So I have 40 plus school districts that I work with. And what I love about our area is I've taught this is the only place I've taught. So I've taught in 4 of the school districts that we serve. So I have some pretty deep roots as well as attending school here. So my role is I work alongside teachers and administrators, and I coach teachers, I work with and coach administrators, and then also do trainings, globally, I guess if you want to call it that, for the teachers and the administrators in our region, and even now outside of our region, since the virtual land has kind of blown up. That's been really exciting. So just working with teachers and kids that have challenges, that are identified challenges. The cool part about my job and where I am is I actually get to work alongside the general ed teachers too, because most of our kids are in inclusion now. And so we have dedicated, so my colleagues are dedicated to the kids that are usually in, self-contained classrooms. I do work with those kids too, but it's really about coaching and just really locking arms with teachers and helping them help kids. So kids from hard places, those are my kids. They're my jam.
Me too. I think that, I don't know why. I think one thing we could do a better job at is is empowering teachers to find what they're
Mhm.
really good at.
Yep.
And for me, and some teachers, it's kind of the upper middle class crew,
Mhm.
that's great, and they're awesome at it. I'm not, but they are. And but for me, I think that's where I found my jam was um kids who typically don't buy into what we traditionally look at as successful academic kids.
Mhm.
They're just not interested. And for
Mhm.
whatever reason, I'm like, those are my kids. And I connected with those kids. I felt the same thing. I remember sitting in school
Mhm.
thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, this isn't fun. I don't want to be here.
Right.
And I think that's the vast majority of kids. But I think it's interesting how you were academically successful and you were part of the school, but somehow you found a way to connect with those kids who were opposite than you when you were in school.
Yeah, and I think part of it has to do with my upbringing. My dad was a police officer, and my dad's literally my version of the Good Samaritan. I never knew who was going to show up at our house, and I remember distinctly one of my first and most impactful, I think, experiences as a young child was um, my dad had uh, arrested a guy. He'd been in jail several times and had actually been to prison. And I remember when he got out, he did not have a place to go. And my dad wrote letters to him while he was incarcerated. And so he actually came and didn't stay at our house, but he ate every meal at our house. My dad had a place for him to live. And I just watched my dad connect with this person that in normal society that should not have ever taken place. And I just remember thinking, people are people. Everybody's got a story, and his just looks different than mine. And I remember a couple of years later for our family vacation, we drove to where he was living in a place where they helped people get job skills that had been incarcerated. We went down there for our vacation. We went to see Uncle Ronnie. And so I just remember thinking, and I didn't grow up in the best part of town. And so, you know, I had friends from all different walks of life. So I didn't have this, no one fit in a box for me.
Yeah.
Everybody was a human being with a story, like I said, and I love people's stories. I think they're interesting, and I think that's what makes us who we are. And man, it's awesome.
Yeah. I think that, it's those defining moments that we have as kids, and that sure has to be one for you. I mean, just that one lesson with your dad, learning, I mean, like, not giving up on people, giving people another opportunity to be great. Yes, they mess up sometimes, but we still bring them back. We give them another opportunity to be amazing, and they mess that up on occasionally as well. We just give another,
You've
it's just all about loving them relentlessly.
Yep.
And when you, especially when you see a role model like a dad
Mhm.
do that, where oftentimes, we learn those types of skills and more nurturing and compassion and empathy from our moms, but from a dad, man, that is just powerful.
Yeah, it was super powerful, and I still, my husband and I talk about that all the time. That's the part of me that I got from my dad, and that's the part of my dad is a relationship builder. And if I learned anything from my parents, um, specifically my daddy, is relationships change the world. Relationships are the key to literally unlocking every possible door, regardless of who you are. And so that's always been an impact on my life. So that's where I sit. I work really hard to create relationships with people, whether it's the teachers that I work with, or every once in a while I get to go and work with kids, and that is like, it's like air to me. I need to
Right.
see kids. I need to work with kids. So, yeah, super exciting.
Man, isn't that true? I mean, there's so many professions that are servant professions that it's all the same thing. Whether it's police officers, it's teachers,
You bet.
emergency medical people, firemen. Doctors, nurses, it all comes down to those three things. When they're amazing at their job, it's the same three things, the same qualities. And one, they're incredible at building immediate rapport. They're incredible at developing relationships, and they're excellent communicators. And if you look at any cop, any teacher, it's the same thing. It's those same three qualities. And yeah, it's awesome if they know if they have a command of the content, but it's almost as if like that's a secondary thing. If they have those first three qualities in place, then of course the kid's going to learn.
You bet. And I remember the first time, oh, why they let me teach sixth grade math, I have no earthly idea.
Right.
I tried to tell my principal, I was like, this is a bad idea. He's like, it's survival. You can do it. I know you can. I know you can. I was like, okay. So I came in at Christmas. I had no earthly idea. And of course, that's never a good situation when you're the teacher and you walk in at Christmas.
Right.
And so I remember teaching these kids, and I got home that night and I was getting ready to do the next lesson. I'd already made the test and everything, and I'm going over the test just to make sure that and I'm like, oh my gosh, I completely taught that wrong yesterday. Oh God, I got to go back. And I remember apologizing to the kids, and this little girl, of course, they're sixth graders. They're still a little bit sweet. They still kind of want you to like them, and they kind of want you to like, so I was like, okay, guys, I've got to apologize to y'all. I did that all wrong yesterday. So we got to start over. And I am so sorry. Well, she came up to me after class and she was like, Miss Thomas, you should never have apologized to us. And her eyes were like, and I was like, huh? Why? She said, adults don't apologize. And I remember thinking, oh, this is so wrong. And so literally in the first 4 weeks of my teaching career, I was like, something's got to change. If these kids think that you don't apologize as an adult, that's what we're teaching them. You got to apologize. Nobody's perfect. And so anyway, that just kind of became my mantra. I always tried to mess up somewhere and make it not really obvious, but something I had to go back and apologize for. And I remember that honestly making a huge difference with my kids because they saw me as a human being. And again, just about building relationships. And authentic relationships aren't based on facades or, whatever. They can cut through that anyway. They can see right through that.
For me, it's the same thing. That whole, I always say if we want the kids to be it, they have to see it.
You bet.
So I'm all about manufacturing situations and scenarios in a way that I'm going to be the person so they can see the lesson. They have to, that way they can be it, and if that's apologizing or taking responsibility or any of that, they have to see what that looks like. They have to feel that, and then they can become it. Then they can learn it. And it's the same thing with their content. Having kids become a part of the lesson and a part of that family, all learning together. That's when those magical moments are made. And for you, when you first began teaching, was that something because of your childhood and because of the nature and the nurture and the DNA and all that? Was that something that you grasped onto quickly, or is it something you had to learn along the way?
I think that a little bit of both. I don't know that there was one, I don't think it was really super cut and dry because I do think there's a lot of validity to oftentimes we teach the last way we were taught or what our memories are of the classroom, that sometimes we bring that with us, I do think part of me, it's just innately built into my DNA. I remember when I was in kindergarten, my sister's 4 years younger than I am. And so I would come home and I really, honestly, when I was going to school, I struggled with school. I was never diagnosed with dyslexia, but I know that I had some sort of processing challenges going on there. And so I would come home and I would teach my sister. And that was really how I learned. I would come home and I would teach my sister everything that I heard at school that day. And so my poor sister, Miss McLean, if you're out there listening, I apologize, because by the time my sister got to kindergarten, she was already reading on a fourth grade level or third grade level, because I was in fourth grade. Yeah. And so she was running away from school because she was bored. Right.
Yeah.
So, so I think part of it was that, but then I think part of it was I kind of had to learn my way through some of those those moments of becoming a good teacher. Kind of like when you hear your mom come out of your mouth, I could hear some of my former
For sure.
teachers coming out of my mouth. I was like, "Oh, I take that back. I take that
Right.
back." So
I didn't mean because I said so. Slow down.
yeah,
I don't wanna-
I didn't say that. Oh wait, yeah, I did. Oh,
Right.
wash my mouth out with soap. Yeah.
Hey, so for you and your whole crew, you guys are doing some online trainings
Yeah.
and working with teachers, and which is awesome. And I know recently you had one, and tell me what you guys are excited about. Tell me what you're sharing with teachers and what's been great.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So a couple of years ago, I was introduced to conscious discipline. So
Yeah,
Dr. Becky Bailey, which a lot of great research um, behind her stuff, and it mirrors a lot of things that we hear from lots of different directions. Just lots of great strategies for teachers, and so I got a group of my colleagues together from across the state. So there are 5 of us that represent 5 different service centers across the state. And we decided my heart is secondary. And there are 2 out of the 5. So see, even there we're outnumbered. 2 out of the 5 of us are secondary teachers by nature, and the other 3 were elementary school teachers. So my deal was, y'all, we have all this stuff for elementary school teachers, and I love elementary school teachers. I actually, we all need to learn from elementary school teachers. They're legit. They got it going on. And but at the secondary level, we're not training teachers um, in behavior. We're not supporting them in innovative strategies and just new ways to connect, or just even thinking about connection. Because socially, when you get to that secondary level, it's we're busy about the business of school. Let's get it done. Open up the hatch. Here we go. And so, really pulling those concepts in. So, what we've done so far, we've just done the one. We took a couple of the concepts from conscious discipline and we kind of morphed them for junior high and high school kids. Oh my gosh, we had
yeah,
so much fun. We tried to do it in a half-day training. No way. It's too much. It's too much fun. There's too much to do, and too many things to think about, and to be able to say, okay, how can we make this work with our big kids? And so we're going to turn it into a full day training. So we are super stoked about that. Lots of great feedback. So we took I love you rituals and we have turned them into you matter rituals, and then we still kept brain smart start. So just tweaking those concepts a little bit for our older, more mature students, and still having so much stinking fun. I got to go hang out with some high school kids and record and teach them, and then they came up with their own rituals, and so that's what we were using in our training.
yeah,
And Sarah, Sarah,
yeah.
superstar Sarah. So we've been working on that. It's a great project. I'm super stoked.
I love it. I mean, I think first of all, for me, just the power of rituals, and the power that just having the ritual alone is such an important move. And I think some people really they underestimate how elementary secondary kids really can be.
Oh god.
Like, it's almost as if the sillier the better. Here's what I always tell people: if you don't believe me, that you go in any class and just do show and tell. Do that alone.
Oh god.
I
Showing.
mean, man, they love it.
That's what I play.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's fun.
I had a class at the high school, and we went out. We would, on occasion, we go out. My double wide. We're a little overcrowded in that school. My double wide was right next to the soccer field, so we go out to the soccer field. And we play games on Friday, and so I
Mhm.
mean, you talk about having fun with a group full of juniors and seniors playing Duck Duck Goose. It is
Oh
insane.
yeah.
It was a blast.
One of the best times I had with my kids. I don't even remember what the deal was. One day we had some time left over at the end of class, which we were still on block schedule, so we had a lot of time. And so we just had a couple of minutes left, and I was like, what do y'all want to do? And they were like, read to us. read to you? They're
Right.
like, yeah, carpet time. So, all right. So I grabbed a book and just started reading, and I thought, okay, this is crazy. I had every single kid's attention. So the next day, there was a rocking chair, and we had carpet time, and it just became this ritual. And I mean, it just did not even compute to me how much they needed to have those moments. And they're still, they're grown bodies, but inside their brains, they still just need to have fun. They still just need to be little kids. And
Yeah.
some of them never got the opportunity to be little kids, to really be little kids. And so that is a super, super powerful moment.
Yeah, for me, I think it's I just think we sometimes we fall into the trap of believing that these are adults, and
Yep.
because a kid is 16 or 17, they look like an adult
Yeah.
sometimes, and they have the voice of adult, and unfortunately
Hmm.
have really adult language on occasion,
Yeah.
and lots of them had really adult experiences,
Yeah.
but that's still a child inside of there. And
Yeah.
if you look at the brain scan, that brain looks a whole lot like a 6-year-old, not a
Yeah.
26-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just to always to be focused on that this is a child,
Hmm.
and yeah, we want to have high expectations for kids, and yes, we want to teach personal responsibility, yes, we want to do all that stuff, yes, they're
Yeah.
becoming an adult, but they're still in the incubator. They're not there yet. That's why we have a job.
So when I went to do my teaching and my video making with my group of kids, my task was to go teach them, and then do a you matter ritual with them, and then I split them up into groups, and they built their own you matter rituals. So for mine, I played the cup game, so the cup song from Pitch Perfect. So we did that, and we had a little thing that they said at the beginning to build connection, and
Yep.
so we did that. Well, so they still had these neon green solo cups sitting on their desk, and I did not give them really any direction. Just these four things have to be covered. And remember, we talked about your brain and connection and playfulness and touch and eye contact and being present. Okay, we got it, Miss T. So these three groups created their deals, right? Well, this one group took those cups and they put them on their foreheads, and they came up with this deal, and they were unicorns. And yes, one of the captains of the football team, he was a
Yeah.
unicorn with a neon green solo cup. And they went and got paper from the recycle bin and made balls, and they were tossing them. Well, the next thing I knew, they had tape from the librarian's desk. They taped their cups to their foreheads, and they had this. It was one of the most beautiful things that I'd ever seen, because they just had so much fun. And then later, it organically turned into them, one person bending down and the other one like tipping over their cup and putting the ball in the next person's cup. So we came up with another ritual where they would say something positive about themselves, so increasing that positive self-talk. And then they say something positive about the next person, and they dump the ball in that person's cup, and then it goes to the next person. And it was so beautiful. I captured it on audio. One of the girls came running around the side, and she was like, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" And they said, "Come on, get in line." She was like, "I don't even know what I'm doing." And they said, "It's all about pumping each other up," or something like that. And so she listened to what they were saying, and then they were celebrating each other as they're
Yeah.
going down the line, and then they wanted to get back in line. And I was like, it's a green solo cup. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And they were juniors in high school.
It's amazing. I
Yeah,
mean, it
amazing.
never ceases to amaze me. And once that momentum gets going, and I think, my experience has been that sometimes we get into the thought that this happens, this has to be like a special class with special kids on a
Yeah,
special occasion. Man, it can happen with any kid, anywhere, anytime, in any class. Once we set it up and they're successful and they're happy, and we create that environment, we create the classroom family where they feel loved and there's some
yeah.
trust there. And then once we build that momentum, it gets contagious.
And I think that that's another thing, how you just said about the class family. Some kids don't know, they've never experienced the love that as teachers we try to give. We are, as teachers, we're nurturers, and we give and we love and we love. And sometimes it looks like they're not receiving, or maybe they have a hard time receiving because they've never felt love that way. But when you create that school family, man, I'm telling you, there is nothing, there's nothing like it. And when I'm working with teachers, I talk to them all the time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And I'm like, you don't have time not to,
Right.
because you can't buy more time. You can't get it back. Once it's gone, that's the one commodity. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't ever have it back. But when you build relationships and kids truly feel safe and they truly feel like they can take risks inside of that school family, not just with one person, but with an entire group of people, the academic outcome that comes from that, which is what over here is saying, right, is phenomenal. And you can see kids make huge gains. And for me, it's seeing the light in their eyes, realizing I really can do this. I have a future. There's something outside of this for me. I can do this. And I think that that's really that school family and the belief system, and that every kid is valuable, is so huge.
Yeah, I think there's the challenge is to remember who our kids are, and to remember that
Yeah.
they have a story and where they come from and why they behave that way, and dig down into that why, because oftentimes we try to create that family form and the kids push back. And I
Well,
always say, of course they push back. How awkward is this for a kid? They've never felt this, first of all.
yeah.
And in their mind, I believe in their subconscious, they're thinking, well, I don't even have this with my mom
Yep.
or my dad. Who is this person? And what are we doing in here? So of course it's going to be uncomfortable at first, and that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay to feel a discomfort and to push through that and not give up. Because when it all comes together in that classroom and the kids love it and they love being a part of it and they can feel that they're a part of something bigger than themselves,
Hmm.
man, those are the moments that happen in class that they will remember for the rest of their lives, and they will pass along to their own families and their own kids, and have that kind of a legacy, that kind of a legendary impact on the life of a kid, man.
Oh
That
yeah,
is
totally.
crazy.
When and I think that that's probably been one of the biggest drivers for me, is that my legacy has the power to change another person's legacy. Like, it truly, it could be just one thing that I say, or one thing that I do, or one attaboy or one attagirl, or just a smile. I mean, it can be as simple as that. But when we're in it with them every day, and some of the kids, honestly, they come to school because it's social and it's stability. They don't get that anywhere else. And so inside of that, we have the opportunity to really, like you said, get that momentum rocking for them that will literally catapult their legacy into another dimension that they never even thought was possible.
Yeah.
So it's a huge task, but it is so stinking cool. I
Yeah.
love it.
Hey, for you, um, before we go, man, I guess what concerns me the most are, like, right now we have so many teachers that in forums and groups on Facebook, they're talking about, like, they just can't do it. It's so hard right now and so challenging. And that's the crazy part, thinking, hell, teaching was already hard
Yeah,
before March of 2020. It was already too hard. That's
yeah,
why we have 50% of teachers leave every
yeah,
5 years. And now it is, I didn't even 10 times as hard as it was,
yeah.
6, 7, 8 months ago. And for you, what has been your message to those teachers who are just struggling with trying to stay in the business?
First of all, it's been a lot of talking about self-care, because we're pouring so much out. I mean, like you said, we already were, and now it's, quadrupled, it seems, because you add on top of synchronous and asynchronous teaching. Teachers have their own families. And so how do you take a breath? How do you slow down long enough and put that aside? And I think it's giving yourself permission to put it aside. Because if you're not your best self, and honestly right now we're all struggling to be our best selves, but when you're burning the candle at both ends, in the middle and in fourths as well, you just don't have anything left to give. So surrounding yourself with other people, who are positive in your life and can help you. Quite honestly, one of my deals was, I could not be the behavior consultant for my region by myself. I knew it was daunting. That was a task that I'm not big enough for that. So that's why I reached out to my 4 friends and said, hey, this is how I feel. Do y'all feel the same way? Can we go on this journey together? And I think it's finding like-minded people to go on the journey with you and then bring them in so that you're pouring into each other, but you're also able to delegate some of those things. And I'm not having to write every single training all by myself, or I'm not having to write every single lesson plan all by myself. I have some things that I can draw from, and a well to draw from. And quite honestly, this is going to pass. When? Who knows? This is education. The face of education has completely changed forever. It will never go back to the way it was before March, whatever that day was, D-Day or C-Day for COVID, right. Germ Day. It will never go back to that. But I think surrounding yourself with good people who pour into you, and you have the opportunity to pour into them, but dividing and conquering and being able to say, you know, I love myself, I love my job, and the difference that I make is historical. Because yes, we're making history right now with the germ, but teachers have been making history way longer, way before that ever happened. And the legacy that every single person watching this is going to leave behind in the students that they teach is exponential. And those are the kids that are going to change the next generation and the next generation, the next generation. And the light will never get snuffed out as long as we are still the light. And so that's my encouragement is be the light, but you got to have somebody, you know, pouring gas on your fire sometimes.
You know what it is for me is, you know, I think right now this is a time where in years past, we've had so many teachers that really felt great at what they're doing in so many aspects of their life. They felt great with their work at school. They felt great with the impact they're having on in the classroom with their kids. They felt great about their role as a mom or a dad in the family, great about their personal lives. And right now they don't feel great about anything.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Where I think the difference can happen is when they surround themselves with people who are gonna pour into each other. And here's what I always say is to help point out the obvious impact that you make in the lives of kids. The thing is, just because we don't see it, we don't feel it, doesn't mean it's not happening. Kids' lives are being changed every day in schools across the nation, and it just looks a little bit different and it feels a little different than what it has in the past. But I promise it is happening. Hey, listen, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, man. That was awesome. And I just love that all that you have going on. And man, I just love your work, love you. And it's just been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love you too. And I love you guys. I just stick with it.
All right. You're awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.